Now we're going to start looking at how to use breaks and adjust orientation in addition to margins. So far, we've created a paragraph up at the top that is about introduction, and on the same page using a continuous section break, we change the margins of a different section. So far we have 1 and 2 sections. Then what we did was we break to the next page, and that would mean that we were in section 3. So it's really important to note that you actually are breaking these into sections, and we're just keeping track of which section you're currently clicked in and which section you're working on. The next section starts on page 4 because we did an even break. So this page 2 with these paragraphs and the page 3 we created in the previous lesson are actually within the same section as section number 3. Moving to page 4, we are now on section number 4. We then inserted in a section break odd page, which pushed us to the next odd page, which is in fact the next page, page 5. So we're going to go ahead and be in the 5th section of this document. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the orientation to landscape. So I'd like you to pause the video here and change the orientation of this page to landscape. To do this, we're going to go up to Orientation on the Layout tab under Page Setup and just adjust it from Portrait to Landscape. You'll see that at that point this page will flip sideways, and if I zoom out by holding Control and using my scroll wheel, I actually will see that that page is sideways while the rest are up and down in portrait mode. This is important to note because just like with our margins here, we can actually adjust things in the middle of our document, and this would be great for like inserting tables, smart arts, all those kinds of things that might be a little bit wider but not necessarily as tall. I see people try to do this all the time in the middle of their documents, and they don't know how to, so they end up making a separate second document and then printing them together or converting them to PDFs to combine them. And you can really do this with just a simple section break inside of your document. What I want to point out though is this last one is supposed to push to the next page and have an orientation of portrait. What I want to do first though before using a section break is I want to show you what happens when we use a page break, because it's really important that you note the difference between them. So clicking before the word conclusion right here, I'm going to go ahead and insert a page break this time. On this next page, we want to push it to an orientation of portrait, but I want you to ask yourself, which section are you in? So we had section 1, section 2, section 3, including this page and the next, section 4, and then section 5. Section 4 is up here on this page, and then section 5 down here. So are these two pages in the same section? Yes, which means that they are going to have the same orientation. So even though I'm clicked on this last page right here, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Even though I'm clicked on it and I know that these are both landscape, I'm going to go ahead and change the orientation of this last page to portrait, and you'll see that even though I inserted a page break, that whole section will adjust back to being portrait mode, because these page setup options, margins, orientation, size, and columns are all specific to a section. So if one part of the section does it, then other parts of the section do it. So if I want this last page to be able to be orientation of portrait while this page is an orientation of landscape, I have to use a section break. So I'm going to go ahead and hit undo or Control Z on my keyboard, and instead of a page break here, I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a page break or a break of a next page section break. That will then make this section 5 and this section 6. Now that I have a next page section break, I can click on this last page and flip it back to portrait orientation, and that will allow me to have a sideways page in the middle of my document and have portrait on either side of it. Ending this document with a total of 6 sections. The first paragraph, the next 2 paragraphs are section 2, then we have section 3, then section 4, section 5 being the landscape page, and section 6 being the portrait page back on the next page. 6 total sections, but you can do a lot when you start utilizing those breaks. Go ahead and save this because we're going to make changes about styles next.